Is Obsidian the right notes app for you? It uses flat files and has a flat file and folder structure. It can be synced, it has a graph view that is pretty neat and fun. It has saved searches built in. You can use previews of other notes in the note that you're currently typing, and it's in active development. It's actually not even on a 1. Release yet. It's still in alpha or beta. It has an active community with a lot of plugins, and there are even a few options for publishing your notes. Now, there's also a few other notes applications out there that are pretty great, and so are those better than Obsidian? Why would you want to use those over Obsidian or Obsidian over those? Let's find out. So Obsidian uses flat files and folders. To me, this felt very natural, and I liked that a lot when I moved into Obsidian. It may not feel natural for everybody, but you really don't need to get too hung up on it, because generally I find it more freeing just to throw all of my notes into one folder anyways and rely on linking and tagging instead to organize my notes. That is essentially the Zettelkasten idea of the slip box. Now, Obsidian might not be a good choice for you if you want something that can be synced easily, something that is maybe cloud-based. It can be synced. Especially if you want to pay, you can use their feature. And that's actually kind of great, because my understanding is that the server-side version of your files is encrypted and only you have the key to those files, which is a pretty secure way to do it until quantum computing comes along. But I wasn't really too keen on the idea of paying a monthly fee just to have a few thousand kilobytes of data stored on their servers. So I use a free option with using Google Drive, and actually I use an Android app called AutoSync, and that automatically syncs a folder on my phone with my Google Drive. And so I have access to my same Obsidian vault on my phone as I do on my computer. It's a little clumsy, but it works pretty well. Still, I would say as far as cross-compatibility goes, you're probably better off using something cloud-based if you want to comfortably pick up and use multiple devices and not have to worry about syncing things. I'll be honest, I think the graph view is really cool, and I find it kind of fascinating to look at. I've yet to spend a lot of time really exploring it and playing with it and finding use for it. I may never, but I still think it's a pretty cool concept. I don't know if it's any more or less useful than having your notes in a database, but being able to map out links between different notes is pretty cool. Now, I found note-taking with Obsidian itself to be pretty fluid, especially if you're comfortable with the idea of Markdown. And there's actually an Obsidian plugin you can use that will allow you to publish your vault directly through Obsidian, and it'll publish it to GitHub servers. If you want to host this from your own domain, they don't actually have a way for you to do that other than to use Cloudflare if you want to have an SSL certificate. Other ways that are slightly more involved that you can use to publish your Obsidian vault. I'm looking into using Quartz to self-host it myself. Now, if you don't think that you want to use Obsidian, you could also look into LogSec, which is pretty similar to Obsidian. It uses flat files and folders and has a pretty similar linking system. But if you want something that's quite different, that's maybe cloud-based or more phone-friendly, then if you're an Apple person, I have heard that the iPhone Notes application is actually pretty great, especially if you happen to have a nice iPad and are using the pen functionality. Now, Evernote is another option, and it's pretty great, honestly. I would recommend it if you don't want to use Obsidian, if you want something that's going to be simple out of the box and work great from your phone and from your computer. You want to be able to easily copy and paste all sorts of content into one system and easily cull through that information, then I would say Evernote is not a bad option at all. I started using Evernote at some point in like 2011 or so, and I kind of wish I had just never stopped using it. I used it at one specific job, and if I had just kept that Evernote system going from that time till now, I would have so much information in there. Actually, it may be a mess, but it would be pretty nice to have that. And then maybe I could, even at this point, import that into a system like Obsidian and tag it all, although that would be a whole project unto itself. Now, if you're already using something like Microsoft OneNote, or if you're already plugged into the Microsoft system, but if you're already plugged into the Microsoft system, then using Evernote is probably a pretty good option for you. The application's fantastic. It supports a lot of different media types. It has a lot of different ways to organize your notes into different books and subjects. And a lot of the stuff that I said about Evernote being great, I think go for OneNote as well. Although I will say I've run into bugs with OneNote that make me chuckle because of how Microsoft-y they are. Maybe that's just a personal thing, but I don't like dealing with that when I'm trying to jot down a note quickly. And I've actually also done a video about using a Discord server as a note system. I would say that's probably more useful for just transient notes and for maybe like an inbox. I use it personally for my inbox for notes to be filed later into Obsidian or into my Todoist system. But there's one notes application I haven't mentioned yet that I would also highly recommend looking into, and that is Notion. Notion has a lot of systems for integration and can also be used as a project management software. I've actually considered using it myself for project management, and you can use it working with a team And I would say it's definitely worth looking into, especially if you're looking for something that's cloud-based that has the capability to be more than just a personal knowledge management system, but also maybe a project management system. Now, I do think you can use Obsidian for project management, but if you're going to start getting into stuff like collaborating within the notes system itself, it's going to be a little more tricky with something like Obsidian, although even that should be pretty easily possible considering you're just working with flat files and folders in Markdown. So all that is to say, don't get too caught up on this because the most important thing here is that you just sit down and you write. I would say Obsidian's not going to be worth it unless you're going to sit down at your desk with a keyboard and type. It's not quite so useful as just a simple phone app. But if you want to start thinking about things differently and using writing as a way to sow your seeds of knowledge in a more fertile soil, then I would say that Obsidian is an appropriate and useful tool for you. But I wouldn't get too caught up on the tool. I would instead focus on just starting to work. And if you're having trouble generating content, then one thing I would suggest doing is maybe chatting with a friend about a specific topic, and you may find yourself having a nice free-form conversation about that topic to break your writer's block. You can then copy and paste your content from that into your notes system. And I've actually done a video about this. It's one of my only other videos so far. So check that out. So please go ahead and click that like button. Please go ahead and subscribe. And please go ahead and comment down below and let me know what you thought of the video. Thanks a lot. I appreciate it.